It's finally official. The Toronto Maple Leafs are facing the Boston Bruins in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going to go through and break down a series preview between these two teams, what players are hot going into this series, and who are going to be some X Factor players to go into this playoffs for both teams. And we're going to break it all down for you coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we get into it, we just got to say that 78% of you guys watching these videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you enjoy the NHL, you're excited for the NHL playoffs just like all of us here, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. But with that said, let's get right into the main topic of the video today, which is the Leafs take on the Bruins in round one. And yes, I know a lot of Leafs fans are feeling a little bit, reminiscent about, the last time the Leafs and Bruins have met in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously, with the Bruins coming out on top, and now it's seeming like it's shaping up to be yet another great series between these two original six teams. And we're gonna get into the Leafs side of things first. And if we take a look at who has been producing well for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, we see the Maple Leafs have been led this season by obviously Austin Matthews, who is still on the hunt for 70. He has 107 points with 69 goals. We have William Nylander, 97 points with 40 goals, 57 assists. Mitch Marner with 85 points, 26 goals, 59 assists. Johnny T, the captain, John Tavares with 64 points, 28 goals, 36 assists. And then Morgan Rielly on the blue line led the defense with 58 points, 7 goals, 51 assists. And if we take a look at their goaltending, we have Ilya Samsonov with a 23-7-8 record with a 3.13 goals against average, 890 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in 40 starts. We have Joseph Wall with a 12-11-1 with a 294 goals against average, and 907 save percentage in 25 games, 23 starts. And Martin Jones with 11-7-1 record with a 270 goals against average with a 907 save percentage and 2 shutouts in 21 games, 18 starts. And Mark, I know you're excited for the start of this playoffs, and it's looking like it's going to be another great series between these two clubs.
Yeah, that's the big thing. When you do look at the Leafs, there were past games and past series against the Bruins where they really didn't hold up on their own. Maybe they folded a tiny bit. But I think the big thing going into this series is the fact that a lot of these guys are having career years. We're recording this before the Tampa game tonight. So Austin Matthews might end up scoring his 70th or 71st goal. This guy's been on a hot streak. I mean, that's just the best way to put it. So this guy is having a career year. You're looking at William Nylander, who has 40 goals this year. Marner's playing well. You still have Morgan Rielly, John Tavares. This team, plus all the additions added to it, this is a new team that's looking to kind of just kill their demons. We've seen them fight off the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. Ultimately, they did lose in 5 to the Florida Panthers, but this is a team that wants to go deep. They have the aspirations to go deep in these playoffs. They added the pieces they wanted, and I think this is going to be a better series than we've ever seen between this current Leafs team versus the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. I'm excited for this one. I think if the Toronto Maple Leafs can beat the Boston Bruins here in round one, I think that gives them the momentum and the boost that they need to kind of get through this playoffs. And I think with a big series win against Boston, this could really be the deciding factor of how far and how deep they're going to go in this playoffs. And in regards of players who have been playing great, obviously, like you said, Austin Matthews probably going to get his 70th goal while we're recording this video. Other players like Mitch Marner, who's coming back from injury, who has looked pretty solid. They have, Samsonov, who by the numbers here, doesn't look that great, but in his last few starts, I think he's, produced really well. He's got a couple of shutouts over this last month, and he's looking to carry that on into the playoffs, and is looking like the starter for this team going into game one in my eyes. And there's some names here that aren't on the list. One that kind of sticks out to me as kind of like an X factor player in the whole playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs is Max Domi. I think this guy is going to bring the heart and the grit that this team needs to kind of get them through this first round.
Yeah, the big thing is, and I like bringing up the whole X Factors thing, is the Boston Bruins had an X Factor player last year, and his name was Tyler Bertuzzi. He led the Bruins in scoring in the first round, and what do you know? This guy is now on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think this top line of Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Max Domi is going to be the X factor line. We've seen it multiple times. People always point out the star players in Toronto kind of disappear, but adding two guys like this and an incredible playmaker like Domi and his grittiness, his pestiness, and a guy like Bertuzzi who really shows up in the playoffs, I think this line is going to be a dominant force to deal with, and I think the Bruins are going to have quite a hard time just kind of handling this, especially with a lot of their veterans guys gone, like Patrice Bergeron. They might struggle to contain this first line quite a bit.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. I think, like you said, the whole thing around the media is, Matthews and Marner don't show up in the playoffs, but I think that's all going to change this year. I think Matthews is just, having, one of the best goal scoring seasons we've seen in a long time. And I don't think this stops come playoff time. I think he's just been so dominant and he's just evolved his shot onto another level, which is crazy to say. During this season that to me it seems like he's going to be this X factor player going into this series against Boston. I mean, you can't really call him an X factor because he is the best player on the team in my opinion, but I think success from Matthews is really going to be key to the whole Toronto Maple Leafs success in this first round. And if we just take a look at the players who played the best against Boston this season for Toronto, they did lose all contests against Boston this season in the regular season play, but Toronto was led by Matthews with 4 points against Boston, 3 goals, 1 assist. Marner with 3 points as well. Tavares with 2, Nylander with 2 assists, and Calle Yarncroke, a guy who we don't think is going to be back for Game 1, but it could very possibly be. He had 2 assists against Boston this year as well. Woll went 0-1 against Boston with an .865 save percentage in 3 games, and Samsonov allowed 2 goals on 40 shots in his only appearance against the Bruins in the 3-2 shootout loss on November the 2nd. And Mark, I mean, when you look at these players who played good against Boston this season, which one kind of, sticks out to you that could really be this guy that could get them through this series against Boston?
I like to look at Ilya Samsonov. The biggest thing with the Leafs is, and the biggest question this entire season is, who will be the goalie that they ride in the playoffs? We've seen Joseph Woll take over early in the season when Samsonov kind of struggled. We've seen Woll go down. Samsonov can kind of continue to struggle. We've seen Martin Jones take over. We've seen Samsonov come back and take over. So it's kind of been just a effect of what goalie's hot, what goalie's playing the best. And at this current moment, and with his one game against the Bruins, I think Samsonov and the Leafs goaltending is going to be the deciding factor on who wins the series.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. I really like how Samsonov has played. He's looked really sound in the net as of late, and especially in that start against Boston. I mean, forcing it to a shutout, or to a shootout, sorry. But, I mean, it just seems like this series is really going to be tightly contested. I mean, we're going to talk about Boston a little bit, but, I mean, with the goaltending the way it is right now, it just seems like this is what's going to win or lose the series for both teams. And, the other thing that we never really touched on a little bit here is the defense. Obviously, we know Morgan Rielly is going to be solid, but they added, so many great defensive defenders that I think are really going to be, that factor in this series for them, that, they're going to beat up on guys. They're going to get under the team's skin. They're going to block a lot of shots, and they're going to put it all on the line for your team, because Brad Treliving and the Leafs have really built like a blue line of warriors here.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We've seen them pick up a lot of defensemen that might not be known for the best offensive ability or the best defensive ability, but they're going to be guys that you do not want to face for 4, 5, 6, or 7 games. I know game 7 is something Leafs fans hate talking about, but the big thing with this is they added so many depth defensemen that are going to make it hard on the Bruins. You might go out there and take a quick shot in the ribs by a player. You think nothing of it, but once you get to day 2, day 3, and these injuries, or just I hope no one gets injured, but these kind of just feelings of being hit a bunch is going to catch up. And the best way to win the playoffs is just wear and tear. Wear down your opponents, obviously score goals. It's a long series. The playoffs are a long time, especially after 82 games. So having extra bodies on the defensive end that you can kind of plug and play throughout the series is going to be a huge factor.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. We're going to flip the script here into the Boston side of things here now. And if we take a look who has led the Boston Bruins so far this season, obviously we got past David Pastrnak, 110 points, 47 goals, 63 assists. We got Brad Marchand with 66 47 points, 29 goals, 38 assists. 30 Charlie Coyle with 60 points, 25 goals, 35 assists. And Charlie McAvoy leads the blue line with 47 points with 12 goals, 35 assists. And the big thing when talking about the Boston Bruins is their goaltending. If we look at Jeremy Swayman, he is 25, 10, and 8 with a 2.53 goals against average, a 916 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in 44 games, 43 starts. Then we got Linus Ullmark he's 22, 10, and 7 with a 257 goals against, 915 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in 40 games, 39 starts. And Mark, I mean, this team is scary. I mean, if I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan right now, I'm kind of scared of this Boston Bruins team because their goaltending is so good. Take away from the offense for a second, but when you're going up against guys like Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark, every night, that they're going to be hard games to win.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Bruins. They've always been so sound defensively. They have two studs between the pipes in Swayman and Allmark. These are some of the top goalies in the league, and they have both of them on their team. This was a team, and I don't talk good about the Bruins a lot. If you can see in the background, I have a Canucks and a Leafs jersey. I'm a fan of both teams. So the Bruins have a bit of my number for the most part. But this team, I almost had wrote off when you've seen Krejci retire, Bergeron retire. But they've seen guys like Charlie Coyle step up, Pavel Zacha, Marchand has been a beast. Obviously, you have Pasta that's been outstanding. Charlie McAvoy. This entire team has still banded together to get this high up into the Eastern Conference standings. Obviously, they've home ice against the Leafs. They've had success recently against the Leafs. So the big thing with this Bruins team is it's going to be hard to really beat them at their own game of physical force, staying mentally into games, and just forcing these games into the Leafs' favors compared to the Bruins, which is going to be quite hard to do.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, we had this team wrote off at the beginning of the season when we started this channel, and it's really biting us in the rear end here, for lack of a better term, because, I mean, this team's been hot. They're looking good. And when you're like kind of talking about X Factor guys for the Boston Bruins, I mean, obviously the one that you can't glance over is Brad Marchand. This is a guy who's going to go out there. He's going to get under everybody's skin and just draw so many penalties for this team and produce points for this team as well. He's such a great scorer as well, and I think this guy is really going to be the player that kind of steps up against this Leafs team in this series.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You look at guys like Marchand, he has the Leafs number. You know he loves to beat the Leafs, and especially in the playoffs with their success against the Toronto Maple Leafs and getting knocked out last year against the Florida Panthers. They're coming back with a vengeance, really. I wouldn't say revenge since the Leafs haven't really won against them, but they're coming back. They want to make this run. They want to prove to people that last year was a one-off. We've seen Sergei Bobrovsky kind of just out-goalie every team he faced except for the finals. So the Bruins want to make this push. I agree Marchand will be an X factor. I think a guy like Pasta as well. But I think Charlie Coyle is going to be, or Pavel Zacha, are going to be X factors in this series as the center depths, two of them being the top 6 centers. The big thing with them is they're going to need to know how to shut down the Leafs' offensive power. It's obviously going to be a committee, kind of just the whole team doing it. But I think these guys are going to be huge on deciding how the series turns.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with everything you're saying there. And if we look at the players who have played the best against Toronto, obviously we have Pasternak with 7 points in 4 games against Toronto this season. 2 goals, 5 assists. We have Jake DeBrusk had 6 points with 2 goals, 4 assists. Marchand had 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists. And then Pavel Zacha had 4 points, 3 goals, 1 assist against the Leafs this year. Swayman went 3-0-0 against Toronto, putting up a 9.59 save percentage in 3 starts. And Ullmark had 37 saves in his only start against the Leafs in the 4-3 overtime win. And, these are kind of reiterating the same thing we kind of said. Like, these are the players that we kind of think are going to be the X factors. And I really like the shout you had of Pavel Zacha. We've seen him score 3 times against the Leafs in 4 games this season. I really do think that this guy, is going to be, the deciding factor, kind of like we talked about with Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi, to this Boston Bruins team's success.
Yeah, because the big thing is we've seen year after year, Patrice Bergeron was the guy to shut down opposing teams' top lines. So that void is kind of not filled right now. And I think this is where we see Bruins fans really fall in love with either Coyle or Zach. I know they love both of these guys, but one of these guys, if the Bruins do end up winning the series, are going to be a huge factor. And I think that's just going to cement the Bruins fans on loving a certain player. Charlie Coyle's a guy that didn't look great until he got to Boston. He started to pick his game up, and once he got into this top six, he's looked outstanding. Pavel Zacha was a guy that got picked up. I thought it was an outstanding pickup when they got him, and he's kind of over exceeded what a lot of people are expecting. So it's going to be an interesting years, especially with a guy like Swayman. I'm guessing starting between the pipes. Fun fact: the Leafs drafted goalie just a few picks, or it might have been the pick before him. He was fully expecting to go to Toronto. Boston Bruins selected him, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this series to start, Mark. I know you are as the as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, but I mean it's going to be a nail biter one for Leafs fans out there. I know, some I've seen many takes online. Some fans are like, "Oh, we don't got a chance." Some are still hopeful that they are finally going to get that playoff series win against Boston. And if we just take a look at the last 16 times they've met in the playoffs, it's an 8-8 record right now, but the last 6 meetings have been won by the Boston Bruins. And Mark, I need to get your prediction on this. What do you think's going to happen? Who's going to win the series and how many games?
See, I'm a bit of a guy that's, I wouldn't say a sicko, but I like to just kind of fight the demons, everything like this. I want game 7 in the Garden. I want the Toronto Maple Leafs to go up 4-1, and I want them to hold this lead and secure a game 7 victory.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fans would love to seen that a few years ago, so hopefully we see that this season. I think my prediction personally, I think the Leafs take this in 6 games. I think, it might be a little bit of a bold prediction here, but I think they take one on the road against Boston, win both at home, and then, they come back game 6 and secure the series. I mean, you can call us, a little bit outlandish. Now, none of us picking Boston, but I think this is the year for the Leafs to finally get the revenge on the Boston Bruins.
Oh, I certainly hope so at this point.
I mean, I guess everybody that's watched this video as a Leafs fan is hoping for that, and we want to hear your guys' predictions down below in the comments section. We're going to get into everybody's favorite topic here, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to George. He says, this might be the best season of all time, at least in the salary cap era. And yes, I mean, George, I think I have to agree with you. We've seen lots of great things this season. Matthews about to hit 70 goals after we record this video. We've seen Connor McDavid getting 100 assists. And we've seen one of the best races, to the playoffs in a long time between the Capitals, the Wings, the Flyers. I mean, it's just been a great season, Mark.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, yesterday's games were just kind of crazy. We've seen the Capitals playing the Flyers. The Flyers pulled their goalie, empty net. The Capitals score. Detroit goes to a shootout, thinking their games or season is still on the line. It was just an unreal race to the end of the year. It was really up in arms. We didn't even know the Toronto Maple Leafs were going to play the Boston Bruins until yesterday. So it's definitely been a great ending to the season. I do wish it was a 1-8 format. That's a different video on its own. But this year has been insane, and the playoffs should line up to be even better.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with them. My heart goes out to Red Wings fans. I mean, to lose your season the way that it went, I mean, it just sucks to see. I mean, if the Montreal Canadiens lost their season that way, I would be heartbroken. So my heart goes out to the Detroit Red Wings fans watching this video. But if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 3,500 subscribers here on the channel. So if you don't want to miss anything coming up for this upcoming playoffs, we're going to be covering most of it here on the channel, so you're not going to want to miss it out. So make sure down below, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check out a video we did yesterday talking about the race between Pittsburgh and Washington, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, Casey, alongside my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.